Hey, Dream 10X, it's your boy JC.
And Dr. Capel.
And welcome to episode 53 of the Dream 10X podcast. I'm your host, James Capel.
And I'm still Dr. Capel.
53 episodes and we still have the same name. All right.
Progress.
So this episode is titled The Cauldron of Competition. And we decided we wanted to talk a little bit about the recap. We wanted to give a little bit of a recap on our rowing season. We just completed our rowing season. It starts in April.
Yes.
And it ends in November. And we are masters rowers. That means kind of old. You're advanced in age a little bit. And you participate in a rowing team. And our rowing team has various types of boats that they compete in. I compete in a single scull, so it's just me in a boat, and I got 2 oars, and so I row like this, facing backwards. And I also, at times, will row in a double, which is 2 people doing like this, or a quad, which is 4 people. And Cindy is on the other side of the boathouse at the D. Campbell Boating Center. Is it Boating Center? D. Campbell Rowing Center, I guess. Boathouse in Old Town, Alexandria. And she rows on the sweep program.
And sweep is 1 oar, and anywhere from 2, because they do have the pair, to 4 to 8 people in a boat. So you only have 1 oar per side. I like that better.
And they have a coxswain, a person called a coxswain, which is generally a smaller, lightweight person who sits in the stern of the boat.
Well, some are bow loaders like the fours.
Or the bow of the boat.
Sits in the boat at some position.
Or the back of the boat. And they generally have these lines that they can steer a rudder with. And so they can see where the team is going, the boat is going, and they help steer and help whip the rowers and tell them to row harder and faster. And that's the job of a coxswain. And so she's on the sweep team, I'm on the sculling team, and she rowed last year,
yes.
Right? Did you row the year before that?
No, because that was COVID. Nobody rowed.
Yeah, so I've been rowing for a number of years out of with Alexandria Community Rowing out of the D. Campbell Boathouse. But since COVID hit, I guess it was 2019, I haven't participated in rowing at all. She just started rowing last year, and I just
started back.
Sorry, yeah, just started back rowing. And she talked me into rowing this year. So I've been on the bench for a long time, and I've just been like lifting weights and just kind of doing as minimal amount of exercise as possible. However, we did participate in the virtual Marine Corps marathon stuff. We did the 10K, we did the marathon, and we did the 50K one year.
That was our first anniversary. We did all that. It was within a month.
First anniversary. And before the week before we got married, we did the Marine Corps Marathon.
Yep. And then the following, and we got married right before COVID. So COVID hit. We were supposed to do the marathon again. They canceled it, but they had all these virtual events back to back you could do. So we did all those, and that was lovely.
Yeah, but other than that, have not done much physical exercise other than lifting in our weight room in our basement, maybe 3 times a week. That was it. So she talked me into rowing this year. I begrudgingly agreed because I didn't really. I sit a lot, right? So I sit. I'm a programmer, so I sit in front of a computer all day long. I don't move much, which is not at all good for you. And I realize that. But when you're in the zone, you're in the zone, right? And you want to maximize that flow, and you just forget about getting up and moving your body, which is horrible. So that's one of the reasons I agreed to row this year with Cindy, is because I was concerned about my health, for one, because this past year and the previous couple of years I've been struggling with AFib. AFib is when atrial fibrillation or something like that. It's when your heart goes into an irregular rhythm. I don't know why it was doing that. I think I was experiencing high blood pressure, probably related to work and sitting too long. And so, I went to the doctor, and they gave me put me on high blood pressure medicine and all that. But I reasoned that I really needed to get some more serious cardiovascular exercise, and supplement that with weight training. And so this year was my attempt to kind of deal with that, because last year I had an AFib episode. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it felt like a fish was in my chest, just flopping around. And I'm like, this is not normal. I need to do something to kind of get over that. And so that's one of the reasons I started rowing. So, but in addition to that, I've had like really bad back problems, really bad back pain, also associated with sitting too long, I think. But I've had back pain for a long time. Doctor said it was stenosis or whatever. So, but anyways, these two things, one was driving me to get more exercise, and one was kind of holding me back. And ever since we moved in this house like 2 years ago, I've had just really weird back pain. Like, just sometimes I can't even. It's painful to walk. But I keep reading online that it's okay to keep moving, and like moving is a good lubrication for your joints, and don't just like rest all the time to combat it, and definitely don't take Advil to combat it either. You just need to work through it. So one of the ways I've been working through it is stretching. I stretch every morning, stretch out my back and stuff, and I'm trying more not to sit as long. And then I also decided to row. So I'm just trying to set the stage. I'm doing a terrible job telling the story, but so for the first day of rowing in early April, I literally can barely walk out the door. Now, I signed up for club sculling, and the only reason I signed up for club sculling is because they only go like three days a week. 3 days a week. And I figured, all right, I can spare 3 days a week to go row if I can get my back to cooperate, because I can barely walk, man. I was literally thinking to myself, all right, 1 day at a time. Let's just take this 1 day at a time and see how it goes. I'm just going to do club sculling. So I got there on the first day, and then I talked to one of my coaches, Alan, and then my juices started flowing being in the boathouse, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and sign up for competitive sculling and see how it goes. And I haven't sculled single scull with the 2 oars since probably for over 20, 30 years maybe. It's been that long. Now, I have rowed with Cindy on the sweep team, but I have not sculled in probably 30 years. So this was a huge, in retrospect, this was a huge step for me, because I have not sculled in probably 30 years.
And you always talked about how much you loved it.
25 years, something like that. 25, 30 years. I haven't done the math, but a long time, since the 90s. And I do love it. I absolutely love sculling. It's awesome. But so that first day, my back is killing me. I am like throwing caution to the wind. All right, I'm giving up my mornings. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. And so
competitive sculling is 5 days a week.
Competitive sculling is 5+ days a week.
Yeah.
Because they want to be really competitive. That's why they call it competitive sculling. So you
race. You practice every morning, and then you race on the weekend. So it's a big commitment. It's
a big commitment, and they expect you to commit to a lot of the big races on the East Coast. And so that's one of the reasons I was like, I don't know if I don't want to do that. But that first day, I just jumped in the fire. And so I went and talked to Mike Chen, the competitive sculling coach, introduced myself, said, hey, I want to be a competitive sculler, yada, yada. And the first thing he says to me, I don't think we have a boat for you. And he said, one of our other guys is going to take the only heavyweight single that we have. So we'll probably row in double sculls today and maybe some of the week in the early week, but the rest of the season you're going to need to have your own boat. So I was like, oh my God. So here I am jumping into the fire. Now I have to put out a big outlay of money to find my own single boat. So I had to make the commitment. I made the commitment. Do it. 100%. So I had to immediately come home and start looking for my own boat. So from going to club sculling, the mental desire to do club sculling 3 days a week went to, I'm in this 100% full time. I'm committing to the biggest races that we go to. And now I got to get my own boat. So I'm searching for my own boat. And for my birthday, I found a boat in Charlottesville, a fluid design single.
It's pretty.
I went and tried it out, and within a week, I had my own single, I had my own rack space, and it all worked out. And I'm so glad I did. So I'm just telling you that story because now I'm reflecting back on all of that and realizing how valuable the competitive sports experience has been. Like I said before that, I was just in maintenance mode, just working out, lifting weights, couple 3 times a week or whatever. Not doing much, mostly focused on, just sitting and doing my career work, professional work. And so this time, I'm not neglecting that. However, I am committing to getting up at 4:30 in the morning every morning, get down to the boathouse by 5 o'clock, 5:05, get on the water by 5:30, get off the water by 6:45 or 7 o'clock, and then come home, take a shower, and still do the same, work and all that good stuff. The rest of your life takes place then, and then a lot of the big races occur on the weekends in the summer and in the fall. So, what I knew already, but what we want to talk about here is the value of sports competition and why is this a fair thing to say? Most adults should participate in competitive sport, or all adults should participate in competitive sport, because there's so much benefit to be derived from that, and we as humans improve. We derive so many great benefits from that, and we've put together the top 5 reasons why we think everybody should compete in competitive sports as an adult. I read an article recently that it's in our blog post. Check it out, dream10x.com. It'll be the latest, episode 53. You won't see that, but it's called The Cauldron of Competition. There's a link to an article in there, Financial Samurai, where he asks the question, where are all the adult athletes? And invariably, we as parents, we put our kids through, soccer and swimming and wrestling and baseball and all these things. So we want to expose them to all these different sports, and I think some of us hope that maybe they get scholarships or whatever, to college, and it helps offset that cost or whatever. I don't know, but we really push our kids to compete in sports for whatever reason. But as adults, we're so busy focused on being a parent and dealing with the household and professional and all that, we don't have time to compete or even participate in sports. So I think that's one reason that explains why there aren't many people while there aren't many adults in competitive sports programs, whatever they are, whether it's rowing, wrestling, tennis,
kickball,
soccer, kickball, whatever it is. Another reason, however, is because it just sucks. So we're getting into the top 5 reasons, and one of the first thing that I came up with is that you need to embrace the sweet pain of competitive sports. And it is painful. Like getting up at 4:30 in the morning is really painful.
Or training for a 5K. Like you have to get out there, put your shoes on, and do it. Like
you have to.
It's a lot of work.
It's so hard. My kids are training for a marathon right now, and they're always complaining about how hard it is for them just to get out and do something.
Yep.
For whatever reason, work or TV or who knows what it is. The discipline required to put in the reps that you need to do to participate in a competitive sport, a competition. It's not insignificant, and it doesn't really matter what it is. You just have to almost commit to some daily training in order to participate in a competitive event. And so it stinks. And not only does getting up in the morning really, I was a night owl, going to bed at 2 and 3 in the morning before, and then all of a sudden, the punctuated equilibrium, I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, so I have to change my schedule. I have to go to bed at like 10 or before 10, if possible, to be able to get enough sleep in order to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So that stinks. And then being consistent. Consistent. You have to be consistent. You have to show up every morning.
And then you're sore, and you still got to show up the next day.
Sore.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and your kids are wanting dinner. I don't have kids, so we're good.
Your dog and
your dog wants dinner.
Your husband.
But it's definitely like in your body's sore and embracing. I love that phrase, embracing the sweet pain, because your body's sore, everything sucks, and yet you still commit to taking that next step each morning and knowing that you're doing so much good for yourself, your brain, your family, because you're treating your body the way it needs to.
Yeah, and like I said, my back was killing me, and my mental mantra every morning was take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Stretch, let's get the coffee, let me shuffle out the door, and let's see where this goes. Every morning, one day at a time. And I have great fondness looking back on that, like for this year. Like, just take it one day at a time. Let's see what we can do. And going to competition sucks. Do you find that?
What do you mean?
Going to races, like
explain what
from
you mean
a rowing perspective.
Yeah, you drive for 6 hours to row for 20 minutes.
Yeah, if that. I mean, if it's a short, you can do a shorter race too. If it's sprint season, it's like over in 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But when you're doing the longer races in the fall, around 20, 25 minutes or whatever. And then if you're only doing one race, that's it. And sometimes you got to drive to like Philadelphia, you got to drive to Boston.
So like 3-hour drives for one 20-minute race.
Yeah.
Each
and
way,
so,
3 hours.
And that sucks because you got to pay for transportation, you got to pay for trailer fees, you got to pay for lodging and food and all that, and that, price adds up. So that kind of sucks. But also the mental aspects of it. I always get nervous before a race. Always. It doesn't matter who I'm racing or what I'm racing, where I'm racing. I always get nervous. I have a hard time sleeping. I go to the bathroom a lot. And every time I'm like, why am I putting myself through this?
And I have a very different reaction. Like, I don't get nervous before a race unless it's something completely different. Like, I was stroking, which means you set the whole pace for the entire boat. And I did that for the very first time ever in a sprint race at Masters Nationals, which is a national event with all like the best rowers in the nation. And my coach is like, yeah, you're going to stroke this. I'm like, no, I didn't. So I had pretty much a panic attack, which I don't have. And so it's when I'm put in situations where I have to be on. Otherwise, like for me, if I go to competition and I'm just following, I can pull all day long and push all day long, and I don't get nervous.
Yeah, but I think you just hit on why embracing the sweet pain, embracing the suck, going through that crap day to day and weekend to weekend for the races is important, and it's because you grow. You grow through that pain. You've never struck before, and you were really nervous about it. You cried, right?
I did.
The first time.
And I don't cry.
You had people behind you depending on you doing it right in a big race.
Don't fuck
nationals.
it up.
Nationals.
Yeah.
And you've never done it before.
Yeah.
But now you can do it.
Yeah, and then I stroked for Head of the Charles, which is like the biggest longer race. It's a 5K versus a 1K. 1,000 meters. And it's the biggest race of the season and I got to stroke that boat, and so that was like just a huge honor, and I was nervous, but nothing like before because I'd grown into the role. So and so I found that as well. So dealing with those nerves, learning to control my amygdala, being mindful of how I'm feeling, so proud.
Trying to take breaths, being confident in who I am and where I'm at the given point in time, because invariably I'll show up at the starting line and I'll see these people who are they just look so much bigger and stronger and better and whatever, and you need to like put that aside and be confident in yourself, and it takes training. It takes practice. It's really hard because it's easy to let that go and get psyched out and get defeated or whatever, but it doesn't matter if you get defeated or not. None of that stuff matters. What matters is that you push through all that and you try to control all those emotions and all that fear, and you do it anyway.
Yeah, and part of it is like practicing that every day on and off. For us, it's on and off the water. So for you at work, when you're having that amygdala reaction for whatever reason, say it's an email you got, they pissed you off, being able to control that just makes you a better athlete and a better human. And so it's like when you can start building those neural pathways and then using it in all aspects of your life, And in competition, that's just the extreme. So we are extreme humans. I mean, we're made for fight, flight, or freeze. And when we're put in that situation in competitive sports and we're at the starting line and you have to like get control of yourself, I mean, it just is going to help you in your workday too.
Yeah. So. It has to. I mean, this is much more intense than most professional situations, even in a boardroom or whatever. Participating in competitive sports is much more intense.
Absolutely.
So if you can handle that,
crazy boardrooms, but yeah.
I mean, I've never been in a boardroom, but I gotta think. Come on, it pales in comparison because competitive sports feels like you're gonna die. If you get beat, it feels. When I was wrestling in high school, and somebody pinned me, I reasoned that if that was a real fight, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
It's death. It's life or death. To some extent, your mind is rationalizing this could be life or death if I don't win.
Totally.
Survival of the fittest.
I was in martial arts most of my life growing up, and so I would walk into a ring, and it was the same thing. Like, okay, I am walking to this ring to get punched. So how do you deal with that? So same thing, yeah. Oof.
Okay.
What
martial arts was it?
I studied Shotokan, Shorin-ryu, and Taekwondo.
She's a badass.
I used to be. Now I'm a big dork.
We played fighting one time, and I thought she was going to kill me.
And now you know.
Yes, don't play fight. Don't fight her. Ground game.
Got no ground game.
So that's number one, and that's probably the strongest reason to compete in sports is because it's hard. It's really hard, and as you take each day as it comes, and you gradually overcome your fears and the associated pain and the associated agony and drudgery of all that, you grow, you get better. And that's why I loved what happened to me this past year after committing to do competitive sculling 100%. So number 2, social connections. When you compete, when you compete in competitive sports, especially if you're part of a team and you're going every day and you're practicing, invariably you're going to build bonds with the people that you practice with and you compete with and you compete against. You see the people that you're competing against at the races and stuff, and you tend to...
It's like a homecoming. Hi!
And I can just honestly say that in the sport of rowing, I have made so many wonderful connections and friends. I even Alan Weatherly. I mean, truth be told, he won't watch this anyway.
He's our BFF, just so you know.
But yeah, I mean, the characters that you run into, I would never have met Cindy had I not rowed. And
it's true.
So Cindy and I met rowing, and we ended up dating, and we ended up getting married. So it's incredible.
You find people with, I guess, similar mindsets and similar values in your sports, and so that really, I think, helps create those connections that we need.
I mean, it's just a bunch of weirdos, you know.
Have you met us?
They're a bunch of weirdos, whatever.
Our people.
It's great. Yeah. So just really valuable connections. So maybe this is number one. You know, the number one benefit to get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to juggle the benefits these are the
top 5 in no particular order.
Right. Good way of putting it. Yes. All right. So number 3, bigger organs. You get bigger organs as you work out harder and harder. Do you want to talk more about that?
Meow.
Including your heart. And so this is one of the key reasons that I got back into rowing competitively is because I wanted to strengthen my heart. I wanted to, get on top of this eighth.
You wanted to get on top of it with your bigger organs.
Stop. I wanted to get the AFib under control. Even though I was taking blood pressure medicine at the time, I thought that, rowing is one of the best sports for you cardiovascularly and muscularly. I've heard it said that rowers have the biggest hearts, not just
Physically.
Not just emotionally, but physically. Have bigger hearts. And I found a study. It's linked in our blog to a link to a paper in our blog that's linked to a study that conclusively proved that rowing exercise can cardiovascularly remodel, can result in cardio remodeling of your heart.
That's
I put that in a
fascinating.
weird way. In other words, it makes your heart bigger. It's conclusively proven that your heart will get bigger as you vigorously row, as you vigorously train for rowing.
That makes sense though, because it's both cardio and weightlifting all at the same time. Yeah, it's like doing a deadlift at full power every stroke that you do. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I knock on wood, I do think that is helping with my AFib. I have not had an episode, since last year, since before I started rowing. So I'm hoping that is working. But I will say that in the 90s, I did have a little AFib episode after rowing a race. But I don't know if that's because I can't remember if I just stopped training for a while and then jumped in that race, because that could have been possible too. So I don't know, but I just hope that this has helped. It seems to have helped. What about our brains?
Oh, it does a lot for our brains. So it's promotes neurogenesis, which is new brain cells. So exercise in general promotes neurogenesis, which is new brain cells, which makes the volume of our prefrontal cortex, that's our thinking brain, it makes it bigger, which means that we can think more. So when it comes to memory and learning, it actually promotes that, and it helps to eliminate or reduce the Alzheimer's and dementia. So it can help to reduce the symptoms and help to reduce the time frame when it happens. So if it was going to happen when you're 50 and you exercise a lot, it could potentially start happening when you're 60 or 70 and older. So it really does make a significant difference on how we think, how our brain works. It promotes more flow to the brain. And again, neurogenesis, more brain cells, we think better.
More dopamine.
That's true. It changes our body chemistry where you get more dopamine and serotonin. And that promotes positive psychology, positive attitudes. It's been shown to have people who exercise have better moods overall. So there's so much benefit to our insides as well as our out.
I also read that...
And we get hot.
You get hot?
Like we're sexy. Because we got muscles and stuff going on.
Okay.
So it promotes our well-being, our mental well-being, which feel good about ourselves, that too.
I did read that as we get older, our brain actually shrinks.
Yeah, that's true.
And so this type of competitive sports activity, whether it's rowing or something else that gets your blood pumping a lot, can help fight against that tendency for our brain to shrink as we age. So that's very helpful.
Not even to mention bone density and muscle mass, which helps to promote our bodies being able to function longer. So
when you think of all that biological benefit that you derive,
totally.
And we'll talk about people, inspiring people who are older than us and can still there's so many people that I saw on various competitions who were older than me and who could beat me, who were faster than me. Yeah. And at one regatta, we saw a woman who was I think it was ahead of the Charles. She was 85 years old.
Oldest woman in the race. Joanne. Her name was Joanne.
Oh, good memory. Your brain's getting bigger.
It is.
85 years old and she's still going.
She was rocking. We're on the bridge cheering her on. She was moving really fast.
Yeah, we'll talk about inspiration here in a minute. But okay, bigger organs. So number 4, biophilia. This is all her. I can't even spell it. So take it away, Dr. Campbell.
Phia. So just generally our connection to nature. And so this isn't necessarily relevant for inherently indoor sports like fencing, for example. Fencing would be wildly different. Or weightlifting, which is inherently in a gym. But you can create inside environments which promote that outside feeling. So backing up. So biophilia is our innate connection to nature. So how we connect to nature. And we do have that longing for it. And it's often why we seek different sensory things, that because we know something's missing, but we don't know what it is. So we like maybe binge TV, and we maybe look at Instagram because we're looking for that sensory input that we're not getting from nature. What?
Nothing. No. Go ahead.
Okay. Or my theory now is like with the whole, I don't know, with the those sounds that people get really quiet. And
ASMR.
Yeah, ASMR. Because my study that I did showed that our senses are actually shut down in society because we have all this data and lights and shiny things influences us. So we shut ourselves down in order to be able to function. So we're not getting that sensory perception that we need. But when we're in nature for long periods of time, that all opens up. So we see colors differently. We hear sounds differently. So when you look at ASMR, it's a way to trigger our brains to get that senses to fill that gap with what we're missing. But that's a sidebar. With competitive sports, especially outside sports, it's pretty cool because you are in nature, you are getting that connection. And when we rode every day, it was awesome because we literally watched the suns come up every morning and watched those colors and just took a breath. We saw a shooting star on our last day. So we were able to connect to nature in a different way. And when we did have indoor practice, like it was definitely, I felt that gap. I felt that missing because we do want to be in nature. We do have that inherent connection. So think about you. What gives you happiness? Do you have a house plant that you like to look at? Do you like to garden? What makes you outside and have that connection? So sports can give us that connection in a way we don't even understand. If you have indoor sports, like say we have a gym in our basement, you could put in houseplants in there just to make that vibe environment. There's a couple of schools, I want to say Liberty School, that created an entire gym based on eco-consciousness and biophilia. So the gym itself, like there's different rooms.
Jungle gym?
It is, like literally. So there's different rooms with different fields, like in natural spaces. So it's pretty cool. And that's biophilic design. Sorry, geeking out here.
Interesting, yeah. So one of the things I really love about rowing is being more in touch with the river. I love rivers, I always have. And growing up in Texas, I loved the Frio River, the San Marcos River. They were always so cold and so clear, and you could see the bottom, and everything was so hot and parched. But the rivers, provided relief to that heat and that dryness. And I just loved the cold water of a river.
Full on sensory perception right there.
Go tubing or whatever. So I love being on the Potomac as well. Yeah. And you get in touch with the weather and how it impacts the tides and the wind. And you become more in touch with all of that because it matters. Because if the wind is coming out of the north and it's blowing against the tide, you're going to have a rough practice. And practice sucks already. You don't want to be out there in whitecaps or whatever. So you get more in touch with what's going on in your surroundings. The full moons, and when they occur, provide more light for you. You're like, oh, that's great. And the
birds, like so. There's like not egrets.
The cranes and the I forgot the name of them. Yes.
So there's birds that have nests on top of our giant posts in the water, and so like you get to see their patterns of behavior, things you would never see otherwise.
And they're flying with fish. And,
fish everywhere, and
they yell at you when you run by them.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's awesome. I like the fact that we can be outside. Actually, I do enjoy that, and I feel like I got a fix when I get home.
Yeah.
And then I get to sit all day. But and finally, number 5. The inspiration that we derive from competing in sports is really awesome. And I wanted to mention that when some of the first times I became aware of that inspiration that I was deriving from competing in sports was the first time I went to Ironman Louisville in Kentucky, and I went to the carbo loading dinner before the day before the race. And they had a bunch of people come up on stage and tell their story about how they got to the starting line. And really, it was just about getting to the starting line. It's so hard to get to the starting line, especially on these big races. There's so much you have to do, and a lot of people, there's so much they have to overcome, including cancer, including amputation and being an amputee, including addiction, including having to deal with having to lose a tremendous amount of weight just so you can get out there and put in the 100 plus miles on the bike and the 26.2 miles on the run. people lost so much. So there's so many stories of people that lost so much weight just so they could get to the starting line. And what an amazing journey just to get to that start of the journey.
Yeah.
And so that was so inspiring to me. And then to go on marathon, running in different races around in the Northern Virginia area, Fredericksburg, whatever. Sometimes you'll see people running without shoes, and running barefoot. Like the first time I saw somebody run barefoot, I thought that was amazing. And I don't know, it just was very inspiring to me. Like, oh, you're running a full marathon without shoes on. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Never even crossed my mind.
Yeah, me neither.
Or rucksacks, or people juggling while they're running. Like, how do you go?
I can barely move my legs.
I can't even chew gum and run at the same time. People juggling like with 4 balls and stuff. And then I saw a picture of a person this last week who was in a double scull with a partner. Had one arm and did the head of the Schuylkill with one arm. Amazing, very inspiring. Like, so you see people like that, and you're like, well, what's my excuse?
Yeah.
Why am I not able to get out of bed and at least go to practice when these people are getting to the starting line and they're competing with all these other issues that are just seem insurmountable, and so. Those people are inspiring to me. I'm so glad that they're doing what they're doing and that they grabbed them and they went out there and did it. And that inspires me to be just as bold and to care less about losing, although I do really care about losing.
Yeah, you do.
I hate not performing as well as I think I should perform or think I am capable of performing. I absolutely hate that, and it makes me depressed. But at the same time, these inspirational stories, like that 85-year-old lady who's still competing in rowing at the head of the Charles, and people who are older than me who are able to, by a decade or whatever, 2 decades, who are able to beat my time still. That gives me so much hope that, hey, I'm at my current age, but I can still be doing this for another 20 or 30 years, 40 years. It's awesome. And I'm not going to slow down as long as I keep pushing myself.
And what's our new mantra about?
And so while Cindy and I were talking about this and talking about dreaming 10x and shooting for the universe and falling short of that and how that impacts it, how it potentially can impact your mood and your mental state. Like for me, it's devastating a lot of times. I really let it hit me hard and I want to quit. And I'm just not, because I'm not good enough. I can't do what these other people are doing. I just don't have the DNA. I just don't have the genetics. I just don't have the mentality. I don't train the same, or whatever it is. When you're thinking like that, Cindy helped me out by saying this quote: "Shoot for the stars, but be happy where you are." And that's the best thing she's ever said to me, other than I do. I just love that quote. And at some point, we're going to have that put on T-shirts, and you'll be able to find those T-shirts at dream10x.com. Right? You gonna do
Absolutely.
So, in conclusion, I typed up an conclusion. It's on our blog, but I just wanted to read it because I didn't memorize all this stuff. But just wanted to say that competing in sports makes a human smarter, stronger, and fitter. Sports competition awakens our primal instincts and teaches us to harness its power for helping to ensure our survival. Is that reasonable? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Being uncomfortable and afraid is a big part of sports competition, as it is life. And mastering our mind and body to overcome the pain and fear in pursuit of success is part of that. The more we compete in sports, the more our brains and bodies evolve to successfully deal with adversity and the unknown. Benefits such as these are directly applicable to our longevity, professional, and personal lives here on Earth. Similarly, perhaps it's not too much of a reach to think that sports competition could be a key component of humanity's successful colonization of the universe as well.
Love that.
Is that okay? Is that an okay statement? And then my final statement is, long live the human machine. So the reason I said that is because I found a quote. It's a Latin phrase that goes per ardua ad astra, and it means through struggle to the stars. And I think that's a slogan for the Space Force now or something like that. But before that, it was a slogan for an Irish clan for a really long time. And I got to thinking that, the Scottish clans and the Irish clans, they used competition to find the elite warriors amongst them.
Highland Games.
Yeah, the Highland Games amongst them, because that helped, that helped with their survival.
Yeah.
And their growth as a people. And so relating that, and it's interesting that even back then, through struggle to the stars, were they thinking that, we need to keep improving ourselves through competition so that one day we can colonize the stars? Were they ancient aliens? No,
Clearly they were ancient aliens.
But I love that quote, and I love putting sports competition in the context of improving humanity such that we are able to deal with the adversity and the strange, weird stuff we're going to encounter in the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big reach, I know, but I love making that Dream 10X correlation.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else? Any closing statements that you want to make? All right. Well, thanks for listening to episode 53. We're thankful to be coming back after our episode 52, and we'll be back at you soon. Thanks for watching.